Show practically anyone this picture and a huge percentage of them will probably be able to tell you who this is. Mario is a pop culture icon these days, and his popularity has skyrocketed ever since his creation back in 1981, very nearly 40 years ago now. Even my nan and granddad had a copy of Super Mario Super Show on VHS back when we were kids. We used to watch it whenever we went round there. But how was he created? Did he always look as he does now? He's been a villain in a game in the past, you say? Surely not. This SwitchUp retrospective is going to look at the history and rise to fame of Mario. Luigi might even get a brief mention too, we'll see. This is sort of a lost SwitchUp video, as I originally wrote the first draft of this script in September last year. It was to be the first in a series of SwitchUp retrospectives, looking at the history behind famous video game characters or franchises. I shelved the idea for a while and eventually revisited it, creating episodes on Night Trap and the Streets of Rage series. Links to these will be in the top pinned comment. But here is what would have been episode 1, better late than never. How did Mario come to be? Well, let's find out. Mario's creation inadvertently starts at the feet of another popular character, being that of Popeye. The year was 1980 and Japanese video game developer Nintendo were trying, fairly unsuccessfully, to expand into the American market. They had tried a year earlier to bring their arcade game Radar Scope, which had been a relative success in Japan, to America, spending a large amount in order to ship 3,000 arcade units to New York. However, the game never really caught on, leaving Nintendo with 2,000 unsold cabinets left in a warehouse. Nintendo CEO at the time, Hiroshi Yamauchi, turned to game designer Gunpei Yokoi, probably best known for later designing the Game Boy, to supervise a project that would see the unsold arcade cabinets converted into a new game. A game that would be designed by a young Shigeru Miyamoto. So where exactly does Popeye come into this? Well, Miyamoto's initial idea was based around using the characters from the Popeye comic. Popeye himself, as well as series antagonist Bluto and Popeye's love interest Olive Oyl. Unfortunately for Nintendo though, they could not acquire the rights to these characters at that time, so Miyamoto had to go back to the drawing board. And go back he did. Popeye became a nameless carpenter, Olive Oyl became damsel in distress Lady, or Pauline as she would become better known, and Bluto became a giant ape that you may well have heard of, named Donkey Kong. And the game they created of course was named after him. It went on to be a huge success when it released in 1981. Although the male character was nameless in the Japanese release of the game, for the English translation he was named Jumpman, before eventually being renamed Mario. Legend has it that the name Mario came from the landlord of the warehouses Nintendo of America were renting at the time, Mario Segale. Nintendo owed Segale money in back rent, and after a heated conversation where they convinced him that he would be paid, and noticing some similarities in how he and their character looked, they began to refer to their character as Mario and the name kinda stuck. The reason for his early trade choice of a carpenter was down to the fact that Donkey Kong took place on a construction site, therefore a carpenter seeming like a logical choice of profession for him. He was designed to look like an everyman character, someone that players could associate with, although a lot of his early design was dictated by limitations in hardware. For example, the lack of available pixels meant it was impossible to successfully animate facial features, so to circumnavigate this, Mario was given a large nose, so that it would stand out, and a moustache so that developers did not have to draw a mouth or any further facial expressions. He was also given a cap, so they didn't have to draw hair. Mario's iconic colours of red and blue were simply chosen because they were a good contrast to each other and to the background, although at this time Mario's overalls were red and his top blue, something that would swap around in later years. With Mario not really established as a main character at this time, he may have been the playable protagonist in Donkey Kong, but the game was named after the ape, let's not forget. Mario's next appearance actually saw him take the role of a villain. 1982's Donkey Kong Jr., a sequel to Donkey Kong, saw the player taking on the role of Junior as you attempted to rescue your dad who had been locked up by Mario. A couple of games were then released as Game & Watch titles in Mario's Cement Factory and Mario's Bombs Away, but it wasn't until 1983's Mario Brothers that further backstory was added and Mario was given a few more of the characteristics that we would recognise today. Not to be confused with Super Mario Bros., we'll get to that later. Mario Bros. Is a platform game set in the sewers where you have to clear a certain number of enemies, achieved by hitting them from the floor underneath and then kicking them away. Clearing all enemies will see you advance to the next screen. As the title implies, this was a two-player game and saw the debut of Mario's younger brother Luigi. As the game was set in the sewers, Mario's profession was changed from a carpenter to a plumber, and the enemies emerged from pipes, another staple of the Mario series these days. The game was set in New York, and because of this, Mario and Luigi were portrayed as Italian Americans. It released in arcades in 1983 and was a modest success. Miyamoto has stated since that he never necessarily envisaged Mario becoming a leading man, and instead saw his future as more of a recurring character that would appear in many of the company's games across a variety of genres, albeit mostly in cameo roles. He likened this to how Alfred Hitchcock made small cameos in his own movies. To this end, he was originally going to be called Mr. Video. Whilst that name didn't come to fruition, the release of the Famicom home console in Japan in 1983 indeed saw Mario making such cameos in early games such as tennis, golf and pinball. Then came development on a new game from Nintendo for their Famicom system. Shigeru Miyamoto and Takeshi Tezuka were on development duties for a new kind of platform game. They wanted to improve on what had been done before by including a scrolling background and better use of colour rather than the single screen black backgrounds that had been used in the company's games so far. During an Iwata Asks interview in 2010, Miyamoto stated that they took the knowledge from other games they had worked on, such as the partial scrolling screen from Excitebike and the larger character sprites in Overworld, and looked to implement these into the platform genre. Coins were chosen as a collectible in the game, as the development team figured that even if you had never played a game before, most people would see a coin and grab it, as everyone likes finding money. Test runs of level designs were carried out with the player controlling a simple square before the decision was made to make the main character Mario. It was seen as a follow-up to 1983's Mario Brothers, and the pipes and same basic enemy designs were implemented into the game. Luigi was then added as a second playable character. Due to the desire to have larger character sprites in this game, the team eventually decided on having Mario begin small but be able to grab a power-up, the now iconic Super Mushroom, that would cause the increase in size, turning Mario into Super Mario, and thus the name Super Mario Bros. Was born. The game was set in the Mushroom Kingdom and saw Mario needing to rescue Princess Toadstool, as she was labelled in the English manuals, better known today by her Japanese name Princess Peach. The antagonist and kidnapper of Princess Toadstool was the evil Bowser, King of the Koopas. It was set across 8 worlds, with each containing 4 levels. The final level of each world saw a confrontation with Bowser or one of his minions in disguise. Things could have been very different though, with initial ideas for the game having Mario using a beam gun and flying around on a rocket. Even the iconic B to run and A to jump wasn't how it was going to be, with up on the D-pad penciled in to be jump early on. Imagine making those precision jumps with such a control scheme. It released in Japan in September 1985 and was incredibly well received. Its intuitive level design, with stage 1-1 effectively acting as a tutorial that taught new players everything they would need to know throughout the rest of the game, precise controls, as well as the iconic score composed by Koji Kondo, had players clamouring to experience it. In late 1985, the Famicom was given a redesign and rebranded as the Nintendo Entertainment System, ready for its North American release. Super Mario Bros. Also released in the States in late 1985, although whether it was at launch or not is debated owing to certain American states being used as test grounds for sales of the NES before official release. It was a huge success, and to this day has sold over 40 million physical copies. It became a packing title in the years that followed, both in North America and upon its release in Europe. It set Mario on his way to become the pop culture icon and Nintendo mascot that he is today, and laid the groundwork for a plethora of quality sequels that followed. Perhaps we'll look at these games and Mario's continued rise to stardom in a future video. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. Please let me know if you do enjoy these retrospectives. This is the third one now, as I mentioned at the start. Links to the other 2 are in that top pinned comment. Go and give them a watch maybe if you haven't done so already. Are you one of those old enough like me to remember playing Super Mario Bros. For the first time back in the day? What are your stories about it? Please do let me know in the comment section below. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe, and until next time, happy gaming.